Hey, everyone. Welcome and thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, we'd love it if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. The world keeps a close eye on Iran's nuclear program. But there's one thing people forget. Iran doesn't need nuclear weapons to shake the world. All it takes is one decision, not from a military base, but from a narrow stretch of sea just 39 kilometers wide. The Strait of Hormuz. That's where Iran holds its most powerful weapon. Economic leverage. Right now, this threat is far more serious than any bomb. Between the burning deserts and massive oil fields of the Middle East lies a narrow gap of water only about 40 kilometers wide. That's roughly the distance between central Jakarta and Bandung. And yet, if this strait gets blocked, the world could collapse. To some, Hormuz is just another waterway, but to world leaders, every inch of it has the power to shape the future of the global economy. That's not an exaggeration. According to the US Energy Information Administration, nearly 20% of the world's oil supply, over 21 million barrels a day, passes through this strait. If that flow stops, the global market could spiral into chaos within a single day. There's no backup route, no alternative plan. Oil giants like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar and the UAE must pass through Hormuz to ship oil to Asia, Europe and even the US. Countries like Japan, South Korea and India rely heavily on this oil. So a global energy crisis is just one political decision away. Iran knows this very well, not only because it's aware, but because it literally sits right next to the strait. In fact, it has direct military control over half of it. This isn't just some empty threat. The Iranian military, especially the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, has said again and again that if Iran is attacked, it's ready to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. These warnings resurfaced recently after US and Israeli strikes on Iranian military sites and rising tensions in the Middle East. They think these are just bluffs? Think back to 2019. Iran seized a British oil tanker and sabotaged several others in the Gulf of Oman that shook global oil markets and sent a loud message. Hormuz is Iran's ultimate weapon against Western pressure. Every conflict involving Iran has real global consequences. When Iran fired missiles at US bases in Iraq in January 2020, oil prices shot up more than 4% in a single day. And that was just a retaliation, not a full closure of the strait. If Hormuz were truly shut down, the impact would go way beyond rising gas prices. Industries that rely heavily on energy imports would suffer hard. Economies would tremble and, well, kitchen tables around the world would feel the pain. Production costs would surge, food prices would spike, mass layoffs could happen, even Southeast Asian countries like Indonesia would feel the blow. Yes, they have some oil of their own, but the energy market is global. If prices go up in Japan, the shock hits Indonesia too, especially if Iran starts sabotaging tankers, launching missile attacks on export ports, or conducting massive military drills near the strait. That alone would be enough to scare off insurance companies. War risk premiums, normally 0.2 to 0.3%, are now up to 0.5 to 1% of a ship's value. That means tens of thousands of dollars extra just to sail through Hormuz. Some ships are slowing down, others are turning back. So, while energy shipments continue, they're moving under the shadow of fear. The world knows how critical the Strait of Hormuz is. But not all countries would feel the pain equally if it shuts down. Some might have a few days buffer, but others are extremely vulnerable, especially those that rely heavily on Middle East oil and have no backup routes. Japan and South Korea are at the top of that list. They import over 80% of their oil from the Gulf, and that oil must pass through Hormuz. If the flow stops, they'll have to scramble for expensive, unstable alternatives. India is also in a risky position. Not only does 40% of its oil come through Hormuz, but over 60% of its natural gas imports pass through it as well. If the strait is blocked, India has about 80 days' worth of oil reserves to manage short-term shortages. Meanwhile, China is slightly better prepared, at least on paper. They have large strategic reserves and can get oil via land pipelines from Russia, but even they still rely on the Gulf for over 40% of their oil. And for an economy as massive as China's, even a small shock could cause system-wide chaos. So, what about Southeast Asia? That's where the domino effect really stings. Countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Thailand, even if they're not major importers from Hormuz, are still vulnerable. Why? Because the global energy market is connected. When oil prices spike, everything else becomes more expensive, from shipping to food. Import costs rise, exchange rates get unstable, inflation soars. Indonesia's central bank has already warned that tensions around Hormuz could put heavy pressure on the rupiah and the national budget. Singapore, despite its small size, faces massive logistical stress because of its key role as a shipping hub and financial center. Rising logistics costs can wreck business efficiency. And if this crisis drags on, even strong countries like the United States and European nations could falter. As for the United States, even with strategic oil reserves, those only cover about 90 days of national consumption. Plus, the United States still depends on stable global supplies to keep prices under control. And if conflict in Hormuz spreads to the Red Sea or strains oil producers like Iraq or Kuwait, the problem only gets worse. In the end, closing the Strait of Hormuz isn't just about stopping oil, it's about global panic, a collapse in market confidence, and sudden supply chain disruption. The countries whose economies aren't strong or energy independent yet, they'll be the first and hardest hit. Hormuz isn't a weapon, it's a pathway, it's not a bomb, it's the key to the global economy. Right now, even a small signal from Iran is enough to spike oil prices and rattle markets, without a single ship being seized. But if Iran closes it in the name of sovereignty or retaliation, the impact won't stop at the Gulf. It'll echo around the world. At that point, the question isn't who can save the world, it's what's left to be saved. Former President Trump has repeatedly said that United States strikes destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities. Apparently, they were hit hard. But to be clear, I can't confirm how severe the damage is. Iran's uranium enrichment industry is homegrown. They didn't import it from anyone. You can't bomb science. You can't erase technology. Thanks again for watching. Please subscribe.